Problem is the steaming up of glasses.
I know.
Good evening. Welcome to the candidate forum put on by the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County and the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. My name is Patty Lackman, and I am from the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County, Voter Service Chair. Tonight's forum will cover the contested races for Batavia alderpersons in Ward 6 and Ward 7. A contested race is when someone has a direct opponent on this particular ballot. If a candidate does not have an opponent, the race is not contested. These are the only two races in Batavia that are contested this go-around. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We are happy to provide this service for the community. The candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to this forum. Barb Lamans from the Wheaton League will be our moderator, and Marianne Noss, our timekeeper. I would now like to introduce Margaret Perot of the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. We are also being filmed, I forgot to say, by BATV with their trustee Amelia Centula as the camera person. Margaret?
Thank you, Patty. Thanks for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. I'm Margaret Perot, the President and CEO of the Batavia Chamber of Commerce. I'm thrilled to represent the Batavia Chamber tonight and have a voice at the Batavia Aldermanic Candidate Forum. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for their opportunity to partner on this evening's event. The League of Women Voters is an active and valued member of the Batavia Chamber of Commerce and has worked diligently to bring this evening together. I especially would like to give recognition to Patty Lockman, who is a dedicated member of the Chamber and a pleasure to work with. Thank you, aldermanic candidates, for being here tonight and for your willingness to step forward and run for election. Though there is optimism in the air and a light at the end of the tunnel, we know the pandemic has drastically impacted our business community. We will continue to deal with the economic ramifications well into the future. The Batavia Chamber is working hard to support our chamber members, our businesses, and our town by being a proponent for what they need. Through advocacy, education, and building a network of support, the Chamber has promoted an environment for local businesses to survive and even thrive in the current economy. More than any other level of government, local government makes a tremendous impact on our daily life. As an organization whose mission is to promote business and economic development, the Batavia Chamber has a special interest in knowing what is happening in our Batavian government. Decisions made here at City Council will affect our economic vitality. More importantly, the Chamber is made up of citizens who live and work in this area. Batavia is our home, and our members want to know who their elected officials are and where they stand on the major issues facing us. It is imperative to keep our community informed now as we cope with the current crisis and as we prepare for a stronger and better future. I want to thank the candidates here tonight for participating and for your willingness to contribute to the future of our great town. Thank you to BATV for live streaming, and thanks to everyone who is turning in at home via YouTube this evening. Now I'd like to introduce Barbara Limans, the first Vice President of the League of Women Voters. Barbara will facilitate tonight's event.
Good evening. My name is Barb Limans and will be serving as the moderator tonight. I am a member of the Wheaton League of Women Voters and live in West Chicago. Therefore, I'm not eligible to vote for any of the candidates participating in tonight's forum. As Patty said, tonight we'll be hearing from candidates running for Batavia City Council from Wards 6 and 7. The candidates have agreed to basic rules outlined by the League of Women Voters, which includes no voice, image, or other duplication of the forum may be used by a candidate's representative or campaign in any campaign advertising. This forum is being recorded in its entirety, and the video will be available at a later date for viewing on both the Central Kane County League of Women Voters website and the Batavia Chamber of Commerce websites, as well as BATV. Candidates in alphabetical order by last name by ward will give their opening statements and answer questions. The candidate who makes the first opening statement will move to the end of the line for the first question, and this rotation will continue throughout the questioning and closing statements. Candidates will be allowed 2 minutes to give an opening statement, 1 minute to respond to the questions, and 2 minutes for a closing statement. A member of the league will act as timer, and I will enforce the time limits. Excuse me. Should a candidate exceed the time limit, I will ask them to finish their sentence and then move on to the next candidate or question. All questions for tonight's forum have been submitted by the community. Regrettably, there will not be enough time to ask all questions that have been submitted, but I am sure the candidates will make themselves available should there not be time for your specific question. So let us begin with opening statements. Candidate Cerrone, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Nick Cerrone, the current alderman for Batavia's 6th Ward. 8 years ago, some neighbors and friends asked me to run for alderman because they didn't feel there was an open line of communication. They weren't being heard, so I ran with the promise of communicating more and being the conduit between residents and the city. I also ran on the promise of being fiscally prudent and creating a downtown that's more vibrant. How have I done in 8 years? Well, communication-wise, I have a newsletter that promotes discussion and shares what is happening with the city. I also have a dedicated Facebook page that I post to. I'm accessible through the city's website, which we have made a priority to improve leaps and bounds over the last several years. And if you ask any resident that has had an issue or reached out to me, I've been available. I'm an open book and will take anyone's calls. As far as finances, we've kept the city's portion of real estate tax bills steady for the last 3 years. We have not raised electric rates since 2015. We are holding the line. We have a balanced budget and healthy reserves. And as far as downtown, in the last 8 years, we created the River Street Woonerf, which has gotten international acclaim. It hosts the farmers market, which is awesome. I'll put it next to anyone's. The new boardwalk shops are a huge hit. Our restaurants battled through COVID and are coming out of it, but we've got new restaurants coming too. I was on the volunteer committee that created We Side with Batavia restaurants that helped them through. I'm on the board of Batavia Main Street to help support downtown businesses and events that draw visitors from all over. We've done a lot in 8 years, but there's more to do. I love this town and I have no other agenda. I want to be a great representative and serve my neighbors and friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Davey.
Good evening. My name is Sonak Dave, and I'm a candidate for Alderman 6th Ward. I'm the voice that you're used to. I'm fiscally responsible. I pay my taxes and mortgage and send my kids to Batavia Public Schools just like you do. I've been your neighbor for 20 years. We built our home from dirt in the 6th Ward in 2000. I'm visibly active, serving in the community, and biased for action. When COVID shut things down, I created the Batavia High School Senior Class of 2020 map online and printed it at Con Printing, a local business, and hung it at Bulldog Stadium. I bought empanadas that were handmade with love from Bocaditos Cafe, a local business, to feed healthcare workers at a West Aurora clinic. On November 3rd, I was a first-time poll worker and helped over 1,100 people vote. Secondly, I have over 25 years of servant leadership, solving financial, business, and technical challenges in the technology industry. That means I'm trained to listen to and empathize with my constituents and develop and maintain relationships. Technology is defined by change, lots of it, and I'm very comfortable with it, and I even embrace it. Lastly, change and representation matter, and it starts with me. I'm an immigrant, I'm the son of an immigrant, I'm a person of color, and women, my wife, my daughters, are involved in every decision we make. As an immigrant, I've had and I've had to act and behave 1,000 times better than standards that aren't made for me or by me for 52 years. I've gotten the job done. That's what we do. It's my thing. It's time to allow for diversity in our ward and our city. When everyone and everything looks and feels the same, it gets a pass from serious scrutiny. Our ward gets better when more, not less, get a seat at the table. Like I said, I'm the fiscally responsible voice that you're used to. Plus, you'll get someone with innovative thinking, creative thinking, and a multi-layered, multi-dimensional, and multitasking agent of change. Diverse membership must be the norm on the City Council. I want every person in the 6th Ward to know this is what an alderman looks like in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Barraza.
Hi, my name is Robin Braza. I live in Batavia with my husband and 2 children, both of whom attend Batavia Public Schools. I've worked in public education for over 20 years, starting as a social studies teacher and now working as a district administrator. In addition to working in public service for my entire career, I'm also a small business owner. I love being part of this community and want to do my part to serve not only the residents of the 7th Ward, but of the entire city. I believe that in our current political climate, local nonpartisan government is so important because the decisions made at this level have such an impact on the quality of life of the residents of this community. Batavia has many exciting developments happening, but is also still dealing with the effects of the pandemic. So it's important that members of the City Council have the knowledge and experience to understand the impact of their role, their duty to the taxpayers, and their responsibility to the community. I believe that my career in public service has prepared me for being mindful of meeting the desired outcomes of the community, working on large capital projects, managing budgets comprised of taxpayer money, large-scale COVID response, and considering a wide range of stakeholder opinions and interests when making decisions. I also believe that my experience as a small business owner and as an educator have given me a deep understanding of how difficult this past year has been for businesses and families and the challenges that still face us ahead. If elected, I believe that I have the experience, knowledge, and skill set to contribute meaningfully and serve the citizens of this community well.
Thank you. Candidate Volsinger.
Hi, I'm Sarah Vogelsinger, and I'm running for Batavia City Council. I love this community, and I want a seat at the table so I can help make informed decisions that will best serve the people of Batavia, both now and for the long run. My husband, Brian, and I chose Batavia 9 years ago as the place that we wanted to raise our family. We moved here after our oldest son was born, and now I'm the proud mom of 2 very energetic young boys. I was an educator for 10 years prior to that at Glenbard West High School in Glen Ellen. I helped, I helped to redevelop curriculum for the culinary arts and child development programs during my tenure there. I decided to stay home with my boys, but I took the skills and knowledge that I gained in that setting of the education world and opened my own brick and mortar business called The Party Kitchen. After proudly running a small woman-owned business successfully for 3 years, I sold that business and came away with a deep appreciation for the hard work and grit that it takes to successfully run a small business, as well as the understanding of the critical role that these businesses play in our city's economic vitality. I have always been very involved in our community. I have spent 3 years as a Batavia Chamber of Commerce ambassador. This is a volunteer position that helps promote and support community participation and involvement among chamber members. I have served on the board of directors for the Fox Valley Entrepreneurship Center for 2 years. This is a nonprofit organization that matches existing local businesses with business coaches after hearing pitches, kind of like a Shark Tank of the Fox Valley. I have volunteered with Batavia Main Street, taking part in the Taking Care of Our Caregivers initiative this past a year ago in March, and I also have served as committee chairperson on the community dinner table event for the past 2 years. Last year, I was awarded a Volunteer of the Year from Batavia Main Street for work in that capacity. I am also active in the PTO at my son's school, Grace McQueen Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to questions. And we'll begin with candidate Dave. The first question is this. With the pandemic, what needs to be done to address the shortfall in Batavia revenue, and how would you address the budget? You have 1 minute.
So that's a great question. Obviously, complex financial challenges need to be discussed among the council. as well as with the constituents, so I want to get their feedback. The shortfall will be temporary, right? Because we're going to be coming out of post-COVID, so the sales tax revenue that we've come to depend on, the home rule tax as well, will return. And if we're open-minded, like most of our fellow Batavians are, 2/3 voted in the last election for the opening of dispensaries for the sale of recreational marijuana sales. So that will also add to the shortfall. And like I said, as we come out of COVID, the tax revenue that we were expecting from sales taxes will return when businesses open. But these decisions and conversations have to be made together. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Barraza, the same question.
Okay, so addressing the shortfall in the budget from the pandemic, the effects of the pandemic. So when we look forward to the growth that we're seeing in our community and in our city as we move forward, I think that we can anticipate additional sources of revenue and some of that revenue coming back into the city. When we look at business and economic development, developing new sources of revenue and increasing our tax base in the downtown area along the Randall Road corridor. And as Mr. Dave mentioned, also by allowing legal sale of marijuana in the city. So I think that we have to look at multiple revenue streams, and we have to look at increasing our tax base and economic development at the wherever we can support that throughout the city. Thank you.
Candidate Volsinger, 1 minute.
All right. I agree that this is a temporary problem. We have a budget shortfall because of the pandemic. We are getting to a point where more and more people are getting vaccinated every day. So I do think that we are going to see more money coming in as people start to utilize the downtown closer to what it was before everything shut down. I think we continue to make our downtown an inviting places for new businesses to come. We have businesses that are, one just opened. We have several others that are investing time and money in opening spaces here. So I think we continue to do that and make this a spot really for restaurants and shops to thrive. And then I think that the dispensary is going to be key too. That is going to be a brand new revenue stream that is completely untapped at this point. So I think all of those things working together will help.
Candidate Cerrone.
Yes, well, we hope this is temporary, and more temporary, the more temporary, the better. But the first thing was we came together immediately as a council with staff and the finance department to see what projects can be delayed, where in the budget can we scrimp and scrape and delay and put off so we can save some money. It just so happens today we got the recovery money from the county, $3.2 million that was distributed. We received today that can be applied to anything in the budget that was affected by COVID. So we will start those discussions as well as how to allocate that money. But of course, every year we're constantly, with COVID or without, looking for avenues of where to develop more revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Candidate Barraza. Do you have any idea what type of savings the city should protect in case of emergency?
I think that it's always important as a fiscally responsible branch of local government to ensure that there are reserves in place for emergencies such as the pandemic that we had just gone through, but also for funding of long-term capital projects and infrastructure projects. So yes, I believe that it is important that the city, when we're looking at the overall budget, identify what portion based on what future projects you can anticipate, and then also having a contingency on top of that to be prepared for emergencies as they come up.
Thank you. Candidate Volsinger?
Could you repeat that question?
Sure. Do you have any idea what type of savings the city should protect in case of emergency?
I'm going to echo a lot of what Robin said. I think that it is very important to identify what projects are going to be coming down the pipeline, what needs to be done soon, what will need to be done, a little bit further in the future, but is going to need to it's going to need to be addressed. So spending money that you have, but also making sure that there is reserves in whatever portion is deemed fiscally responsible.
Thank you. Candidate Saron.
Sure. I look at this as, just as I do my household budget. You can never save too much. We have healthy reserves. I'm very proud of the financial position we have put ourselves in. It's not easy to provide the amount of services we do and hold taxes steady during, when there's constant inflation and cost increases and whatnot. So we have healthy reserves well above the state recommendations of what you should have, but we dipped into it last year to keep real estate taxes down. We got to be careful not to continue to dip in and see where else we can put aside savings.
Thank you. Candidate DeVay.
I'll draw on personal experience like candidates, or Alderman Saron as well. As a father, we have 2 daughters in college, and we've built up a nest egg for 18 years to send them to school. And now we've had to dip into that reserve or savings for the next 4 years. But we know we will come out of it because we've done the right financial planning. That said, pre and post-COVID, there's always going to be external factors that affect your savings. And I would be a proponent of trying to do the most that we can to build our reserves. Spending cuts typically affect our first responders, which affects our constituent security, as well as healthcare workers and our teachers. So we got to do our best to make sure that we have a proper reserve to make sure that those persons aren't laid off or furloughed, which affects more downturn for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question will begin with Candidate Volsinger. Are diversity, equity, and inclusion part of your vision for the city?
Absolutely. I think that diversity and inclusion need to be in the forefront of everybody's mind after the year that we have been through, but also before that. I taught at a high school. I taught a diverse population. I actually taught a class of students that were placed in Glen Ellen through the World Relief Program. So I got to meet students from 9 different countries, work with them, learn about their cultures. That experience changed my life personally, and I could only wish that everybody gets to experience some form of that. So I think having representation of people from different cultures, different walks of life, anytime that decisions are being made is critical to success, being in touch with our population.
Thank you. Candidate Saron?
Sure.
1 minute.
It's, the easy answer is yes, of course. It's something we've already been discussing on the council. The question becomes how to, like any project, how to implement and see real results of improvement. That's the difficult part we're having, but the intentions and it's a great activity and a great exercise because we're bringing in people from different governmental bodies. We're bringing in people from the community to be involved, and everybody wants the same thing. It's a matter of coming up with how to get there.
Thank you. Candidate DeVay.
Yes, absolutely. My answer is short. Yes. I mean, we can't just talk about using a voice. We have to actually use it. And the way you use it is having a seat at the table. Batavia is the home to Fermilab, which is a world-renowned organization. It is home to many immigrants, and they discover endless possibilities of the universe. I don't know why that we couldn't do that here with the diversity that's in front of us tonight.
Thank you. Candidate Braza.
And of course, yes, I agree and echo the opinions of the other 3 candidates in that, yes, this is a priority. It is, it's identified in the strategic plan of the city of Batavia as a priority. In my professional experience, this is obviously something that is a priority in the field of education. And having worked with student focus groups and community groups and really getting the voice and the opinions of the community and using those voices to learn how to create the practical steps that result in the inclusion and diversity that we seek.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Candidate Saron. Do you think the city should consider a moratorium on single-family detached housing while it surveys all possible properties for smaller homes, ranch homes, or other housing for the elderly?
Well, yes and no. No, do I think we should put a moratorium? No. Should we seek out development for those demographics? Yes, and we have. And we welcome all development, and we'd like to say we do it equally. There's a couple houses right off Wilson that are being built by Jimmy Carter and friends for that purpose. We need more. We need more affordable housing in our community, especially even for we have a lot of young kids coming back from college and whatnot. They want to come back to Batavia, and we want to have a place for them that they can afford and move to. So that's a yes and a no.
Candidate Dave.
Could you repeat the question? I got to unpack it a little bit here.
No problem. Do you think the city should consider a moratorium on single-family detached housing while it surveys all possible properties for smaller homes, ranch homes, or other housing for the elderly?
Yes, my answer is, I'll caveat that. I think the answer is it depends. And the best way to answer that is through study. And if that study happens through talking with my constituents, as well as talking with the city council, then I can make the best informed decision. But I agree that affordable housing is a good thing. And if we can increase more traffic, if it increases traffic to the downtown area, which drives sales revenue, and we just talked about a question about savings in the event of an economic downturn, that would be a good thing. But, I can't give you a firm answer because I have to study the question further myself, and I would do that with the council and my constituents.
Candidate Braza?
I don't know that I would agree with a moratorium on building single-family homes, but I absolutely support the idea that there is a greater need for diversity of housing stock. If we're talking about achieving this diversity and equity and inclusion, there has to be a variety of affordable housing options available to the citizens of Batavia. So looking at how do we combine the importance of having diversity within our housing stock and available housing opportunities with affordability and with location when we're trying to increase population density to support a more vibrant and populous downtown area to support those businesses, that's something else to consider. So a moratorium, not necessarily, but I think that looking at the diversity of our housing stock is a priority.
Candidate Volsinger.
Hi. I also think that moratorium is kind of a strong way to go with this. I think that maybe pausing what's happening currently and shifting the focus to other options, smaller homes and the ranch homes that you speak of. I know that those are popular with, say, a grandparent community, and there is people that have younger children whose parents live in homes that they have outgrown and they want to come to this area, live by their grandchildren, but we don't have a wealth of homes that are that ranch style that is appealing to that demographic. So it would be nice to serve that population, nice to serve other populations too, like the homes that are going in on Wilson. That's fantastic. So I think moratorium is a strong word, but I think that exploring other possibilities is most definitely the way to go to increase that diversity and draw more people here.
Thank you. The next question is a multi-part question, so pencils ready. What will guide your decision the most? Calls from the residents in your ward? Calls from residents all over Batavia? Your best judgment from your experience and education? Or, last choice, the Batavia Strategic and Comprehensive Plan? I'll repeat one more time. What will guide your decision-making the most? Calls from the residents in your ward? Calls from the residents all over Batavia? Your best judgment from your experience and education? The Batavia Strategic Comprehensive Plan. And Candidate DeVay, will begin with you.
So I think this is a great question, right? When we talk about acceptance and inclusion, all these should be considered. They're practical considerations. Absolutely, you have to listen to the constituents in your ward. That's who you represent. But you also are part of a greater community. You also know that you're never going to get 100% buy-in with everything, and you're never going to get 0% buy-in with everything. So, you listen and empathize, and try to make the best decisions based on what your constituents want, but also draw on personal and professional experience. And like I said in my opening statement, I'm a multidimensional, multi-layered, multitasking agent of change. So I would be perfect for that.
Candidate Barraza.
I think all of those are important, and I think that it depends on the situation. It really, in all situations, of course, you want to hear the voices of your constituents. Those are your neighbors. Those are the people who elected you. You also are working towards supporting the entire city. You don't just represent one ward. You represent the entire city. So, yes, of course, you're always going to use your best judgment. The strategic plan is there as a guide, and it is there to guide the decision-making so that it is coherent and that we are building toward long-term goals and the long-term prosperity of the city. But again, you can't just rely on your own judgment and a strategic plan. You have to be able to hear the voices of the people in your city and in your ward to understand, to represent them properly. Thank you.
Candidate Volsinger.
Hi. I think it would be definitely a nice combination of all of those elements with any decision making. I would undoubtedly listen, first to the people in my ward. Those are the ones who elected me, the ones that I represent, the ones that would be sitting at this table to speak on behalf of. So those opinions would carry great weight with me. But then the city, the thoughts and views of the other residents of Batavia matter as well. Best judgment, I have arrived where I am now based on the decisions that I've made. I've learned a lot from those. But as far as city council, I have not yet served here. So that would not be the first thing I would probably rely on with any decision making. I would learn from the others who have served, listen to them, listen to their experience, and then bounce everything off of the strategic plan and see how it all kind of works together. So all of them.
Candidate Cerrone.
Well, I've been dealing with this conundrum for 8 years, and I will say all of them is the correct answer, E. I use my judgment a lot. I have a master's degree. I have 30 plus years in business, but my constituents, I have a smart group of neighbors and friends that I lean on and count on. I don't have all the answers, and I don't pretend to. So I lean on them a lot, but each decision is a little different. We've made decisions from, putting an industrial park right behind my neighbors in Ward 6. That became a ward-based decision. We had a decision about the Campana building. That became a community-based decision. So it's different at each level. We keep the strategic plan in mind to guide and use my judgment as a support. Thank you.
The next question will begin with Candidate Barraza. How do you propose to help protect and increase real estate values in Batavia?
I think that everything that the current administration is working on as far as business development needs to continue to be supported. So in order to increase property values, you really do have to have a desirable community, which we already have, but keeping it desirable and improving on that vibrancy and availability of services and amenities is what makes a town a place that people want to move to. And that's what keeps property values climbing or holding steady. But really, I think that this town is already a place that people want to be, and just keeping that going and building on that growth. And that's what will keep our property values stable.
Candidate Volsinger?
Yes. To maintain our property values where they are, I think maintaining a desirable community, maintaining a safe community, working towards increasing the vibrancy of our downtown. I know that there is a parklet, pedlet program proposed this year for the downtown, which would have tables, would have more people dining outside and more places last summer went well in response to COVID. There was dining on the Wooner River Street, and that was wonderful. It made it a fun place where people would travel to. They would park, they would go to the boardwalk shops, that kind of thing. Creating an area where people want to go and want to stay enhances, just makes it a vibrant area, and that increases the desirability, I believe, of our town, maintaining safety. And I think that we have a really wholesome community. Increasing, working to get more businesses in the Randall Road corridor would be one thing I would say we could work towards filling. So, thank you.
Candidate Cerrone?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. How do you propose to help protect and increase real estate values in Batavia?
Well, we're doing it already by making Batavia what it is. We've all done it as a community of the people. I've heard it time and time again. People who move in, they love it. They love the downtown, the things we're doing, the boardwalk shops, River Street. It's a unique town, and I've told this story before. We had a business come to town that came before the council for a variance, and they said they walked through the town, and it was a combination of Wicker Park and Mayberry, and that uniqueness drew them to Batavia. I think we need to expound on that. The character and the uniqueness of this town is great, but we have resources like the river that are underutilized. We have a great downtown that's growing and becoming more vibrant. We're doing the right things. It's just, and more people are seeing it.
Thank you. Candidate DeVay?
Yes, I think it's kind of a multi-pronged approach in terms of increasing real estate values. I think the first thing is education. You have to support your teachers. You have to believe in your education begins and ends in the home, and teachers are just an extension of that. So education is a big deal for me, and we have a great school district and has continued to improve. Second, economic development. I think that driving traffic to downtown businesses, local businesses, can only be a good thing. And then the last thing is community service. I think we all echo that. We're all involved, and when you have neighbors who care and share within your own neighborhoods and your own wards and across the city, that's a good reason to live here, and we love it. We've been here 20 years.
Candidate Volsinger, this question will begin with you. What are the 3 most important things that Batavia needs to accomplish in the next 3 years?
That's a great question. Okay, 3 most important things that Batavia needs to accomplish in the next couple of years. I mentioned this in my last response. The Randall Road corridor, we have lost several large-scale businesses on that stretch, filling those, reimagining, repurposing those for some purpose, so we don't have those empty spaces. I think that would be wonderful. I think that we need to support our downtown businesses during the One Washington project. I know that recently passed through, and it does, stand to have a lot of benefits, but there is business owners who are very concerned. They just survived, the pandemic. They're coming out of that, so we need to support them during that. And we need to tackle the dam project, figure out, if we're going to take that out, just kind of let it do whatever. But preserving the depot pond, and that I think needs to be a top priority, because that is something that is quintessential of Batavia, and ecologically we want to invest time and effort into that. So those would be my 3 things.
Candidate Cerrone?
And this is the next 3 years, did you say?
Right, 3 most important things that Batavia needs to accomplish in the next 3 years.
Well, the first thing is this, from an immediacy standpoint, is One Washington Place. Getting that off the ground, but most importantly, while it's a 2-year project, make sure that we support the businesses downtown. River Street, we've demanded that River Street stay open during construction. It's a concern from a traffic standpoint. There's a lot of variables here that we need to keep on. So that's number 1. The dam is lurking in the background. It's starting to come down naturally, but we can't wait for that to happen, because the depot pond will go away, and we need to make some plans immediately. And then we're always, development is on the forefront always to see how we can bring in more revenue, more retail, more business that can help take the burden off the taxpayers.
Thank you. Candidate DeVay?
Well, the first thing I would say is we need more representation on the city council. That's the first thing. That said, I think economic development is the second thing, so like One Washington Place, but also understanding practical considerations like accessibility and traffic, which are a concern for everybody. And then the removal of the Batavia Dam and the restoration or the preservation of the Depot Pond, as well as the zoning for marijuana dispensaries, which just recently happened.
And Candidate Barraza?
Okay, I'm going to echo a lot of what my fellow candidates said. When we look at the three most important things to accomplish in the next 3 years, we're looking at economic development. The downtown area, of course, One Washington Place is a massive multi-year project that is going to need careful supervision and involvement of the city council and the city administration to ensure that it is not harmful to the surrounding small businesses and to the traffic patterns that flow through there. So that's going to be a massive project that's going to need careful attention. And then also when we talk about the Randall Road corridor, those all of those empty spaces and the big box areas, being creative and again reimagining how those spaces could be used. And when we look at those large spaces and what has happened in the retail sector over the last few years, we need to look at how we're going to develop those. And then also the dam. And I know it's part of the strategic plan that the dam be removed and that the city is meeting with a design group to look at overall Fox River development, but solving that issue as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you can all breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not going to ask you your last question. And we'll be beginning with candidate Cerrone. What are your thoughts on term limits for local officials? Let me say one more time. What are your thoughts on term limits for local officials? Candidate
Well,
Cerrone?
obviously, at least 3 terms is the short answer. You know what? It's a complex question. I think we need to invoke some term limits, but I don't think you need. The question is how long is the right amount? Because having some experience and some knowledge of the way things get done, to have somebody that, as a friend of mine says, knows where the cups and saucers go, is important, especially since we have 4 new aldermen coming on for sure this election because 4 of our seniors are resigning. So it's important to keep some continuity and experience, but to be like a Madigan and be there, 40 years, it's finding that sweet spot. I would say a 10 to 12 year is, maybe 15 is the most, so.
Thank you. Candidate DeVay.
Yes, I think we should have term limits. I just talked about this. When everyone and everything looks and feels the same, it gets a pass from serious scrutiny. So I think that things get better when there's more, not less, when you have having a seat at the table. And look, Alderman Cerrone talked about his experience. I'll talk about my experience. I'm a Purdue engineer. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one of the 4 in this candidate forum who went to the school that put men on the moon. So whether I'm a new alderman, a freshman alderman, or just running as a candidate, I think I can handle it. So I think it's time for change. We need it.
Thank you. Candidate Barraza.
Yes, I do believe in term limits. And I also am going to agree with Mr. Cerrone that you do have to have the continuity and the knowledge of the organization and how things get done. That is important, but that has to be balanced with fresh perspectives, diversity of voices, and term limits would accomplish that. So yes, I would support term limits.
Thank you. Candidate Vogelsinger.
I think that there is a lot to be said for experience. I know that if we were to come on to city council, we would look to our experienced aldermen, women, and listen to what they have to say, find out where the cups and saucers are, after all. But historically speaking, when our country was founded, the positions of Congress and local government were envisioned for people to go and serve, for everybody to kind of have a turn at it. And I think that that has kind of gotten lost, on a large scale in our country, but I think that there is a lot to be said for people going in, serving their term, then being the elder eventually, and then leaving for new people to come in and having more of a flow of that. So I see a lot of validity in term limits.
Thank you. We'll now begin closing statements. You will have 2 minutes for your closing statement, and we'll begin with candidate DeVay.
Thank you, League of Women Voters. This month, we celebrate the achievements, contributions, and progress of women. And I'm fortunate to have 2 strong, smart, and accomplished daughters, Priya and Asha. Thank you, healthcare workers, who have poured truth, facts, and love into the world, especially over the last year. They've been to heck and back. And I know this because my wife, Shilpa, is a physician and has served in this community for 25 years. Lastly, shout out to the Batavia High School class of 2020. This past year wasn't the year that they expected, but it was still their moment, and they came out of it with a lifetime of experience to lead, to be accountable and responsible, and to vote. My name is Sonak Dave, and I will advocate for Ward 6 at every stage of the local government process. I know how to explore and discover the endless possibilities between local government, business, and residents on what we want, on how it will be paid for, and who shares in the benefits. The future starts on April 6th. Please vote. It is your superpower. Use it. Then tell 3 friends. Like Abby Hoffman said, democracy is not something you believe in, it's something you do. You participate. I'm Shaunak Dave, Alderman, 6th Ward. Thank you.
Candidate Barraza, you have 2 minutes.
First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Batavia Chamber of Commerce for hosting this candidate forum. It's crucial that the voters of this community have the opportunity to get more knowledge of the candidates. So thank you very much for that. If elected, I want the residents of the 7th Ward and the entire city to know that I will take the responsibility of office seriously, do my best to be available and responsive to my constituents, and make sure their voices are heard. I absolutely love living in this town and being a member of this community. And as I stated at the opening, I believe that I have the experience, knowledge, and skill set to see Batavia grow through the many exciting changes and developments that are planned for the coming months and years, while honoring and preserving the town's character and history. I'm truly committed to making Batavia even better than it already is, and I encourage every citizen who is eligible to vote on the April 6th election. Thank you.
Candidate Volsinger.
All right.
Volsinger.
I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this tonight, along with the Batavia Chamber and the BATV crew for being here to capture this all. I'm very appreciative of what the League of Women Voters does and what you guys have always done to keep our voters informed. I have a deep love for Batavia, and I believe I have a lot to offer our community. Instead of waiting for a neighbor or friend to run, I decided it was time for me to step up and serve. I believe my experience in the public sector as a teacher, paired with my experience as a small business owner, sets me apart. I have sat on many committees in both of these settings. I know how to be a team player, and I know what it means to give back to my community and how important that is. I'm familiar with many of the business owners in downtown Batavia, and because of this, I believe I would make a good liaison between these entities. I currently work for a Batavia-based small business, and in that role, I work collaboratively with business owners to accomplish various goals. As a female entrepreneur, I understand firsthand how important it is to protect small businesses and to have female representation. As an educator, I know how to work with diverse groups of people and how to listen. I also understand how critical it is to have diverse perspectives represented when decisions are being made. I think one of the most important things I can do as an alderman is to listen to the concerns of constituents, business owners, and other council members. I believe I can bring a fresh new perspective to City Council. For these reasons and more, I feel I'm the best choice for Batavia. I'm Sarah Vogelsinger, and I am asking for your vote on April 6th. Thank you.
Candidate Cerrone.
Yes, thank you, League of Women Voters, for having me this evening and hosting this event. Also, thank you to BATV for filming and airing this and getting it out. I am Nick Cerrone, and I am your 6th Ward Alderman. As I said before, I love this town. It is a unique mix of being a growing town while keeping its small town charm. Its greatest asset is the people. I enjoy representing and communicating with those people, my neighbors. We have accomplished a lot over the last 8 years, but we need to continue to toe the line on expenses while looking to address some major infrastructure needs and issues. I promise to do just that. We also have 4 new aldermen coming on board. I look forward to hearing new ideas and perspectives while being one of the few that can provide experience and knowledge of how to get those ideas implemented. This is a special community, and I want to serve it and my neighbors. That's my only agenda. I can be reached through the city's website and several other online venues. I'm happy to hear anyone's issues and concerns, so please reach out. I welcome your support and vote for Nicholas Cerrone on April 6th. Thank you.
In closing, candidates make choices on how to spend their campaign time. So I hope everyone will join me in thanking them for their choice to be here tonight. Please mark your calendars and take time to vote on or before Tuesday, April 6th. Historically, over the last 4 consolidated elections, voter turnout has been less than 20% for those who run for local offices that directly impact you. We need everyone to vote to make our democracy work. The candidates have done their part by being here tonight to share their views. Now it is time for the rest of us to do our job. Become informed, talk to your neighbors, and vote. Early voting has already begun. Please check the Kane County election website to register to vote, find the locations for early voting, or apply for a ballot by mail. And now I'll turn the program back to Patty Lackman.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. And vote early, not often. Thank you very much.